How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Sunlight Community Church. This week, Pastor Aaron talks about the fourth commandment, keeping the Sabbath day holy. Let's check it out together.
Anyone know how powerful a nap is? It's powerful, man. That's some power. That's a gift from God, I'll tell you what. I'm a new parent. I have two children. One's 2, one's like 7, 8 months, I don't know. And they're genuinely smiley people. Smiley, they're happy, they're easygoing, except when they're cranky and tired. Man, they become irritable, just selfish, self-centered. They become these little sinful little gremlins, like bitter, all this kind of stuff. And the easiest way to take care of it is, okay, shh, and put you down like a little baby, put you down like a nap. So I learned 2 things about this. One, just the power of a nap, just to reset people and just put them down, and sometimes they just need rest. And 2, I'm like a little baby, okay? I'm like a little baby. And I just need a nap sometimes. I just need rest after this week of VBS. I was exhausted after every day. I probably shouldn't, because like some people, they can take care of kids and just be totally fine. Me, I'm like, oh, I'm dying, I'm dead. I just need I'll take a nap on the floor. I'll take a nap anywhere. It doesn't matter. I just need it. Okay, so that's just me. But somewhere along the line, I think our culture has made sleeping and resting like not cool or looked down upon. There's this culture in America especially where we are go, 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 and there's a value that's placed on doing more, being more, accomplishing more. Like, oh yeah, I only get 4 hours of sleep. Oh, I'm so cool. I'm like, that's not cool, buddy. All right? I got young kids. I cherish every hour of sleep possible. And so there's this culture that we are fighting against, and it's almost like when we're given something like the Sabbath day, make it holy. It's a countercultural thing to do, is to take a break, to stop, to not go, go, go all the time, but break your pattern, break your routine. It's countercultural. And so today we've got a roadmap. 4 things. 1, life without a Sabbath. 2, reasons for a Sabbath. 3, the Lord of the Sabbath. And 4, practical suggestions to practice the Sabbath. Sociologists and psychologists have outlined, hey, our culture, American culture, is one of the most overworked cultures in history. Despite technological advancements, we are very much overworked, and despite quality of life increasing, there's a lot of working people here. And so they outlined 4 trends of work, and it kind of grinds against our relationship with work. And here are the 4 trends. Lack of job security. Okay, so especially now, downturn in the market, like there's a higher cost of wages, higher cost of living. Things are pricier, things are less affordable. There's a lot of people are apt to get fired, so there's a lot of people feeling like they don't have a lot of job security. An exporting of labor and a looming recession. The next one, a wage gap. So this is something that's a trend in America right now, is where when someone gets a higher paying job, they are expected to spend more hours at their job. Work more, give me more hours. If you're getting paid a lot, I expect a lot from you. And conversely, people who are at the bottom of the rung, they don't get paid a lot, so they have to take on more jobs, sometimes a 2nd, 3rd, 4th job, a side hustle. These kind of, I'm not sure if you guys kind of can feel this, but this is what's happening in America today, that higher people or people up the ladder, they get paid more, they work more, and people who get paid less have to take on more jobs. So everyone, doesn't matter how much you're making, is working more. Technology. You can work anywhere now, so employers say that you have to work everywhere now. And this one is more important here, the cultural values. In other cultures throughout history, they got their values from their family or their religion or their country. That's who they esteemed value from. However, here, when you meet someone, what's the first question you ask them? What do you do? Why? Not what's your family? Oh, where do you live? Not any of that. It's like, what do you do? That intrinsically, we have established a value of work and production and doing more. And our answer is worse, actually, because our answer tends to fall in 2 different categories. It either tends to fall into fulfillment or money. How lucrative your job is or how fulfilling your job is. I'll give you some examples. Have you ever been asked that question and you don't really work at a job you're proud of, or you don't make a lot of money, say you're, just whatever, some job that you're not really proud of, you don't make a lot of money, and you say, but you know what? It's very fulfilling to me. Oh my goodness, I'm helping so many people, right? And I don't want to, I'm hesitant to say a particular job just in case someone works there, but you know what I'm saying? I'm so fulfilled at my job, and you kind of embellish just how fulfilled you are at this job. Why? Because there's an insecurity there. On the other hand, if you make a lot of money, you want to say, hey, this is what I am, a doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever. I'm at this high-paying job. I have a lot of money. It's not fulfilling, but, I make a lot of money. And so we drop between these polar opposites when we try to answer that question and try to establish value to ourselves. Is it fulfilling, and do you make a lot of money? Essentially, this is a human problem. There's an inner wiring in us, and this is kind of the crux of the sermon today. There's an inner problem in all of us that we do not feel like we are adequate, that we have to feel the need to prove ourselves to ourselves and to others over and over again. We prove it by, hey, you know what? I'm doing good for the world. I'm doing good for my family. I'm doing good for myself. Or I make a lot of money. Whatever the value is, it doesn't matter. It's just this constant need to fulfill ourselves. I got a friend who was just telling me about his dad and how his dad doesn't make a lot of money, but his peers, his friends, are like doctors and engineers and lawyers. But what his dad does is he doesn't defer to his job, he defers to his kids who are very successful. And so that puts a burden on my friend because he's like, man, my dad uses me as a bargaining chip, as a poker chip. Like he's valuable because of that I went to this particular school or I have this particular job. I know a lot of stay-at-home moms who feel the need to prove themselves too. Stay-at-home moms, they don't work, they don't bring in a paycheck, but they feel this need, this anxiety to say, hey, stay-at-home moms, we're raising our kids and you better like it and we're valuable for whatever reason. There's this inner need to justify themselves, right? This is like a insecurity. I know someone who works a ton but justifies to their families like, hey, look, I'm working a ton for you, but look what all we have. You have a house, you have trips to Disney, you have these cars, you have everything. And so we are always trying to prove ourselves, prove our worth to someone else. And society has this problem, right? We fall into this. Despite being the most technologically advanced civilization, we are the most overworked. Despite being the most safest society, we are the most anxious. And despite being the most accomplished in rapid innovation, we are the most hurried, most rushed. And when I ask, hey, how are you doing? You say, oh, been busy. Why? Because we're going. Go. Society's not working right now. It's not the way God intended. And as Christians in this room, we should look to the one who created life to see how life should be run. God created life to have a rhythm, to have a cadence, to have a pattern. That the world is selling a certain type of way to live life. Go more, do more, accomplish more. But we'll see in this commandment that, hey, God wants us to chill out. Just chill out a little bit. So we're going to turn to Exodus 20. If you guys are with it, I'll put it up on the screen. But it's Exodus 20 here. And if you want to read along with me. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, or a male or female servant, or the cattle or sojourner who stays with you. That's like a foreigner. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that's in it, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Sabbath literally means stop, cease. Shabbat, right? That's the Hebrew phrasing. Stop it. Stop. So that's what Sabbath means. So essentially he's saying stop your work. Shabbat. Everything you're doing, all that you're going, your go mentality, that's cute, but you need to stop. And he says, who's this for? And you could read it right here. It's for everyone. Children need it. You need it. Your spouse needs it. Your employees need it. Your slaves need it. Hopefully none of us own, everyone needs it. Your animals need it. Get your animals to rest and stop. This is for everyone. There's a rhythm and a cadence to how everyone is wired, how the world is wired, and that rhythm and cadence involves resting, involves stop. But there are two reasons why God gives us this commandment, two primary reasons. Now, I'm going to highlight the first one here. or underline it. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that's in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Day 1, he created stuff. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, he's created. It is good, it is good, it is good, it is good. It's very good when he created human beings. And then on the seventh day, right, on the seventh day he says, okay, Shabbat. I'm resting, I'm dwelling, I'm abiding with everyone. And so in creation, again, it's this like interwoven thing of how the world works. Cars need regular maintenance, and our souls need regular maintenance. And this is that. This is that maintenance, that oil change, that thing that we need spiritually to just rest. Just rest. Okay, the second thing is in Deuteronomy. There's actually 2 places where the law is given, and it's Deuteronomy. Deut is like the second onomy, the law, second giving of the law, 5 through 12. We're going to skip all of that and just read at the bottom. It changes. It doesn't talk about the 6th and 7th day. It talks actually something separate. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out of there by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God commanded you to observe the Sabbath. He gives 2 reasons. 2 different times, he gives 2 different reasons. The first one is rhythm. The second one is remembering. He says, you were in Egypt, you were a slave. You were working, you were grinding it out, you had no days off, you were working 16 hours a day, you were a slave, you have no options, and I set you free. That's why I'm telling you to Shabbat. That's why I'm telling you to stop. And so we're going to go through these, both these, we're going to dissect this in rhythm and rest. God has woven this pattern in the history of Israel, he's woven this pattern in his people, and he's woven this pattern in you. There's an experiment that was conducted in 1929 by communist Russia, led by Stalin. And here was the experiment. The experiment was to deal away with the 7-day work week, okay? People would rest on the weekends or on Sunday, really. They would work 6 days and they rest on 7th day. And Stalin said, I hate this. Why? Because our machines are not being used on Sunday. The factories are quiet. We're in the middle of a war. There's no production. There's no go, go, go. If you could see on the screen here, you see these pictures, these posters. These are men just eating, having their soup and salad and breadsticks or whatever from Olive Garden. And right here, you have people wanting to work, like get back to work. And this is machinery right here on the bottom right-hand side. On the other side of this poster, you see these people are working right here. It's the idea of to keep on, like, we have to win this war. You have to keep on working. You have to keep on going. You don't even have time to eat without us reminding you that you need to work, do, produce. And guess what happened? They had this new calendar mapped out. They were doing this. The people of Russia were grinded down. There was reports of failure of showing up to work, illnesses, people going crazy. People were on civil unrest. People couldn't meet up with their families because they were on a staggered system. They tried 2 different times in this period, and both times failed miserably. People were severely unhappy because they didn't get to see their family. Part of their family was going and working. So if they have the day off, it's not really a day off. If it's spent by yourself. And so, maybe you could put yourself at. Are you conducting this experiment in your own life? Is this something that you're doing, or you have the tendencies to do that? They conducted this experiment for 11 years. Failed experiment from 1929 to 1940. They said, it's failed. This is stupid. And they went back to the 7-day work week. Why? Because God made things a certain way. We're doing that. All culture right now is trying to switch up the way God is doing or has created the world to be. This is just one example. God made the world to work this way. Shabbat, stop, rest. Genesis 2 says this. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in their vast array. By the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested. That's the Shabbat. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work he created and done more. He said, humans, very good, I'm done. That's it. Good stuff. Work 6 days, rest 1 day. It was good. So God actually made a lot more festivals. He said, not only through the week you're going to rest every 7th day, I'm going to set 7 festivals for my people. And you can see this in Leviticus 23 if you're taking notes. He sets out 7 different festivals: the Sabbath, Passover, First Fruits, Festival of Weeks, Festival of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and Festival of Tabernacles. He's so serious about this stuff. He says, you will party 7 times a year just so you remember to rest, to stop doing work. In Leviticus 23, this is a part of it. It goes into the description of all these, but so you could kind of get the gist of this. The Lord said to Moses, the 10th day of the 7th month of the Day of Atonement, hold a sacred assembly and deny yourselves and present a food offering to the Lord. Do not do any work on that day because it is the Day of Atonement. This is like their big Sabbath rest day. When atonement is made for you before the Lord your God, those who do not deny themselves on that day must be cut off from their people. I will destroy from among their people anyone who does any work on that day. You shall do no work at all. He is serious about his parties. This is to be a lasting ordinance for the generations to come wherever you live, in the Sabbath day of rest for you, and you must deny yourselves from the evening of the 9th day in the month until the following evening you are to observe the Sabbath. So he says this particular phrase, you must deny yourself. Why does he say that? I thought everyone wants to party, everyone wants to relax, everyone wants to have a good time. Why? Because in our own hearts, we have this inner working to always work, always produce, always prove to ourselves and to others. And then it's not just 7 times a year. God actually institutes every 7 years a type of financial Shabbat. We'll see here in Exodus 23, 9 through 12. For 6 years you are to sow your fields and harvest the crops. But on the 7th year, let the land lie unplowed and unused. Then the poor among your people may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what's left. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. So he says that for 6 years, okay, work your land. You've got farm, you've got a vineyard, you've got all this land. Work it hard too. But on the 7th year, don't do anything to that land. That's interesting. A whole year. If you're a farmer and you can't touch your land for a year, you're kind of going crazy, right? You're like, oh, but I think farmers know that, hey, you need to let the land rest so that the next 6 years will be very fruitful. But this is what God is saying. He's saying this is how the world works, even down to the soil. Also, it takes big faith to do this. It takes a lot of faith. Could you imagine? God said, okay, don't work for a whole year. Oh, excuse me? Who's going to pay for these bills? You, God? You going to take care of me? God said, yeah. Yeah, every 7 years. But not only every 7 years does that, to take that break. Also, by the way, slaves and debts were free. Like if you owed someone like a huge amount of debt, doesn't matter what it was canceled. Someone say, hallelujah, praise Jesus. No, that's what, mortgage is paid for, just got to wait 7 years, baby. Credit cards, gone. Like, that's a financial freedom. Debt is a serious struggle for a lot of Americans. Some of y'all are like, yup, let's bring that back. Let's vote this in. You know what I'm saying? So it's right here in the Bible, and it's woven into the practice of Jewish culture. But every 7 years was not enough for God to say, hey, you need to rest. He actually took every period of 7 years 7 times. So 49 years. You got to catch that? I'm not a math guy, but this is what it is. Every sets of 7 years, that whole 49th year, that 50th year, there's going to be a big year of celebration. Check it out here. Deuteronomy, that's the Deuteronomy 15. That's the one where you cancel the debts. We're moving on. Leviticus 25. Count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbath years amount to the period of 49 years. Okay? Einstein, hold on, relax. Consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan. The 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. Do not sow and do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the untended vines, for it is a jubilee and it is to be holy for you. Eat only what is taken directly from the fields. In this year of jubilee, everyone is to return to their own property. So every 50 years, every 49 years in that 50th year, is like this massive year of celebration for everyone of God's people. Everybody, everywhere. Stop working. God's got you. Stop trying. God's done it. Stop doing. It's already done. This is the fabric of which God has created everything. Prisoners were free, slaves were free, debts were forgiven, property was returned to its original owners. If you had a labor contract that was canceled, and all labor stopped for a year, there's this Jewish historian. His name is Dr. Matihatu Tzivat. I thought my name was hard, but he says this: just as in the 7th year of release, man desists from utilizing the land for his own business and benefit, so on the Sabbath day, he desists from using that day for his own affairs. And just as the intervals in regard to the release year and the Jubilee years are determined by the number 7, so too is the number 7 determinative for that recurring day when man refrains from his own pursuits and sets it aside for God. Here's what he's saying, is that this pattern of interruption every 7 years, which, by the way, 7 is a biblical number for completion. 7 days God created the world, right? And so this pattern of breaking, it should be inconvenient. How many of you guys was inconvenient to come to church this morning? Like the toast is burning, the kids are crying, you turn on, I do this, you turn on the car, but the garage door is closed, so I'm like freaking out, I gotta turn that garage door open. You know, like sometimes it's an inconvenience to have to come to church. It's an inconvenience to stop your pattern of work. It's inconvenient, especially if you're trying to work. But what God is trying to teach here is, hey, I'll take care of you. So there's 2 lessons here. One, to someone who's indebted, who's a slave, he says, I will show you mercy. You are free. Imagine that lesson. Like, I've been freed because the God of the universe has set me free. No slaves. None of that. None of those binding contracts. But the second lesson is the person who owns the slave, who has the property, who has a job. And you have to take a step away from that, and then you're like mildly freaking out. And the lesson there is humility. It's trust in God a God that will take care of you. Some of us, we can't put down our phones on a Sunday morning, and we have to get to work, and we can't trust that God can't take care of it. So, like, we're just overworked, overconsumed by this need to do and produce. But some of us need to know that God will take care of us. The rhythm of rest is so vital. Foundational creation. It's a couple examples. For a drummer, right? We have fantastic drummers here. If I'm drumming and I keep on drumming and if I don't stop, I'm just making noise. I'm just making noise. But if you want rhythm is the ability to hit and not hit, right? And when you don't hit, that's called a rest, right? So rhythm is this on, off, and that's what we're talking about here, is this ability to stay on and stay off. When people were taken captive, one particular way to torture someone was sleep deprivation. When you deprive someone from sleep, just like 3 days or whatever, they start going crazy. They start seeing like crazy animals. They start seeing like talking to themselves, and they go wild. And why? Because we need our rest and we need our sleep. Anyone have a newborn in here? I hear some of them. Don't talk to us about no sleep. We're like, yeah, that's me. I feel tortured. I feel like I'm in a prisoner. Why? Because okay, be real about this. If you're a parent with a newborn, or remember those days, some of your fiercest fights with your spouse was because you have a lack of sleep. You get them. You take care of the baby. No, I did all right. Like, I need my rest. No, I need my, yeah. Because we need rest. We need sleep. We need to relax. Some of y'all are upset right now. Go apologize. God has woven rest into the foundations of creation. He's woven rest into the identity of his people with these practices. And if you are a child of God, this should be part of your identity too. It's reflective of God himself when you rest. Can you imagine if I've got 2 kids like Tegan and Rowan, those are my kids, if they felt they kept on working, if they had to do chores to make sure that they stay in the house? Wouldn't that be crazy? Like, I enjoy their laughter so much in the house. I want them to just relax and play and have a good time. I don't want them to stress out. And that's just as a parent to a child. Now, the second one is remembering, right? He gave us 2 reasons for this commandment. It's a rhythm, and it's to remember. For hundreds of years, God's people were slaves. They were working back-breaking labor, making bricks, no days off, 16 hours a day, in Egypt, oppressive Pharaoh, worked tirelessly, no options, no way out, grinded into the dust, toil, sweat, stress under the rock of performance and production, and God in spectacular fashion sends Moses, sends 10 plagues, kills all the firstborn, fire cyclone, splitting the water. It's a crazy scene. It's a crazy undertaking of redemption and salvation. And because of this, God says, look, I rescued you from that nonsense, that slavery. You need to stop. The only thing that I could come up with this is if someone was like an addict. I've read through a lot of stories about addiction, and it's one of those things where addiction is known as a slavery. Like, that's just modern day terminology for slavery. But when you come out of that, anyone will tell you, you've got to stop. Cold turkey. You're done with that life. You've been rescued. You've been set free. But people have that inner turmoil, right? That inner murmur, that need to produce. And so what happened over the years, people took the blessing of God, this Sabbath, Shabbat, and they turned it into like a slave driver. These Pharisees would come along, and they would actually set up like situations, right? They had these debates, and here's one of the debates. They said they wanted to keep this law so tightly that if someone fell down, if like your grandmother fell down, and she was on the floor, like she was on the floor, and she was there, but she wasn't dying, but she was hurt. She wasn't dying though. She wasn't like life-threatening. You cannot help your grandma up. Like if my Lola fell down, I'm like, oh, you don't look dead, so I'll just come back to you in 24 hours. Just stay right there. That was one of the things. They wanted to keep this law so tightly that you couldn't help someone. You couldn't heal on the Sabbath, and you couldn't pick grain on the Sabbath, because that's right there. It's taking up, you're working, you're carrying stuff, you're working. Actually, the Pharisees outlined 39 categories in which they were, you can't work. You can read some of these, right? Carrying, burning, untying, knotting, stitching, I'm not going to go through all of it, but some of you guys do this for fun, right? It's 39 categories. And it became a burden. It became like a slavery, a sense of slavery for them. It became more of a hassle. It became more bondage than it was supposed to be freeing. The Pharisees made these statements, but let's be honest, we all have a little Pharisee inside of us. We all have that little, bearded Pharisee inside of us trying to make things into something that they're not supposed to be. You ever got upset because your planned vacation didn't go the way you expected? Right? You designed it. Okay, we're going to be here at this day at this time. We have a whole binder. We have a whole schedule, a whole to-do list, and it doesn't go according to the way you want it to go, and you get upset. That's turning the vacation, something that's supposed to be life-giving, and you're turning it into something that's a slave driver, especially your family. You could ask them. Or if you're blessed with a house, right? It's supposed to be a place of rest. But instead, you look at the house and you can't rest. Why? Because there's a laundry list of things to do. Oh, the gutter's got to be done. This has got to be cleaned. This has got to be maintained. Like, there's all this do, and it's not a place of rest anymore. You take something that's good and you turn it into something that's a slave driver. I don't have it on me, but we've got one of the biggest slave drivers in our pocket. Little tiny black rectangular thing. Why? Phone rings, goes off, alarm, notification, text message. Yes, master. Yes, master. That's supposed to be a good thing. Phones are a good thing. They're supposed to speed up communication, let you know what you needed to do, X, Y, Z. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but it has become a master to a lot of us. That's why Apple, hey, you know what? You need to relax. You spent 30% of your life was spent on this phone. That's too much. We constantly take the good things of God and make ourselves enslaved to them, and this is what sin is. We take good things and make them God things, and we worship them, and we focus on them, and we spend our time and money and energy for them. And it's because we feel like we don't measure up. We have that inner wiring that doesn't make sense. Enter the Lord of the Sabbath, who messes all this up. Mark 2. On one Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as his disciples walked along, they began to pick some heads of grain. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are you doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" And he answered, "Have you ever read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate consecrated bread, which is unlawful for the priest to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. He said to them, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." So the scene is, the disciples are hungry. They're picking up grain, and the people are judging them. They're like, "You can't be doing that." And Jesus said, "Look, the Sabbath is for rest. It's not for you to be enslaving yourself over." Actually, another time, Jesus was at a synagogue, and he asked a man to stand up, and he had a shriveled hand. And he's had that hand supposedly all his life. And he says, "Stand up, I'm gonna heal you." I wish I was there for this, because the Pharisees were looking at him. They're like, "Don't do it, Jesus." And Jesus is like, "I'm going to do it." Pharisees are like, "Don't do it." And Jesus is like, I'm going to heal this guy. I'd be like, "Oh, Jesus!" I'm like, Jesus healed it. Healed the hand. The Pharisees got so angry. They were outraged. Because of these things, they wanted to kill him. Why? Because he was saying, "I am the Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not meant to oppress our people, my people. It's meant to liberate them and make them free." And so they killed him. They hung him up on the cross. They judged him as, innocent, but they put him up on the cross like a wicked person, like a criminal. So, in doing so, they took the Lord of the Sabbath and killed him, but that's what made him Lord of the Sabbath. Okay? That's what caused him to say, "Oh, okay, now I'm Lord of the Sabbath." I'd like to put up 2 verses here and to show you what happened on the cross. Isaiah 57, 20 and 21. "But the wicked are like the tossing sea, which cannot rest, whose waves cast up mire and mud. There's no peace, says my God, for the wicked." See, sinners, people far from God, the wicked, as this Bible verse says, they deserve no rest. So why do you think Jesus was in pain and agony? He was restless up there. He was screaming because he was made to be wicked. We see this in 2 Corinthians 5:21. "God made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." He took our sin, our wickedness, our faults, our inner working, and he put it on Jesus, and he punished him in our place. This is the gospel, that he experienced cosmic unrest, cosmic restlessness, cosmic anxiety, infinite anxiety, so that we would become righteous, holy, we would become accepted. That's what happened on the cross. There was this switching here, because as you and I, we're always working, we're always grinding this out, but there's this pattern that we see here, because when we see this pattern, we see a pattern. When did Jesus say it is finished? Good Friday, right? That was the last day of their work. But in creation, when did God create humans? Is the 6th day. That's the Friday. And he said, "This is very good." Then on Saturday, Jesus was laid to rest. It was silent. On Saturday, there's Shabbat. What did Jesus do? He rested in creation. So on Sunday, Jesus was rose from the dead, and this is the first day of the new week. Why on a Sunday? Because Jesus is introducing, ushering a new creation. This is a new way to live. This is a new rest for our people. Actually, in Genesis, you'll notice that when you read the account of the 7th day, it says there's no evening and there's no morning, or there's no start of the day or end of the day. It's specific. Why? Because that rest is eternal. For some of us in here, we're tired. We're tired of embellishing, tired of lying, tired of trying to prove ourselves and do more and accomplish more, trying to create a world around us to make us feel secure, to make us feel like we're worthy, to try to fishing, like little fishermen fishing for little shreds of approval from other people and from our families and from ourselves. This is a slavery that Jesus set us free from. A Christian is someone who rests in the work of Jesus Christ, who rests in the record of Jesus, who rests in the identity of Jesus, who rests in the salvation of Jesus. Jesus is the eternal rest. Jesus is your inner peace. Jesus is your inner validation in life. Jesus is the elimination of debts. He is the freeing of slavery. He is the year of Jubilee. He is your freedom from proving yourself to others and yourself, and he is the ultimate Sabbath. Jesus is here to usher in rest for us, for our weary souls. I'd like to get a little practical before we close here. and this will go fast. 7 Sabbath suggestions. Mind you, these are just suggestions. You got to figure this out for yourself. Some of us work with our minds and some of us work with our hands. If you work with your mind, if you're like an accountant or an engineer, maybe you should like take a break with your Sabbath and work with your hands. And vice versa, if you work with your hands, maybe you should take a break and rest with your mind, like read a book or something like that. If you use your mind, maybe you would like to garden or like do something with your hands. So try to do the inverse of what you do your vocation. And related to that, nothing related to your vocation. If you're a fisherman, try not to fish. Try to go read a book or try to do something else. If you do something else, maybe you should go fishing. I don't know. To me, that stresses me out, so I don't know. But you got to figure it out for yourself. Here's another suggestion. Spend time with people you love. Get a campfire. Get a barbecue. Get a cookout. Invite some people over. Try that. Even introverts. They have people that they love to. Like, I'm an extrovert, right? Like, bring some people over. I'll be inviting people over. I didn't even tell my wife. Like, oh, I invited everyone over. But it gives me rest. It gives both of us, like, okay, this is nice. 4th suggestion, move into worship. Like, move it ultimately into worship. Because sometimes it doesn't get there, and sometimes we miss the point of a Sabbath rest day. Here are 4 Sabbath killers. Poor work ethic. I read in the Bible, or I read not in the Bible, somewhere else, like some business book. When you're at work, work. When you're at play, play. But don't work at play and don't play at work. You catch that? Is that your poor work ethic through the week, sometimes if you don't get what you need done, that bleeds into your Sabbath, and that's unfair. So keep a good work ethic through the week so that your Sabbath is remained holy. That sometimes we have to plan out for our Sabbath. Sometimes that's contradictory. Turning a blessing into a burden, right? Sometimes we take this blessing of the Sabbath and we just lord it over ourselves and lord it over people. That's not healthy either. A Sabbath day with no Sabbath heart. This is something too. Has anyone ever taken a vacation and said, I need a vacation from my vacation? That is true, right? Because we don't have that. And creating a pharaoh, right? Our phones create a pharaoh for us. I'd like to address one particular specific group, and that's our parents, right? Parents of kids. I can't take a break from my kids. I'd like to. Can't sometimes. Well, there's this podcast called the Risen Motherhood Podcast. I think it's very helpful if anyone wants to do it. And they kind of address this, especially for young moms. They say this: your Sabbath might look like doing good for others. That means sometimes the Sabbath looks like getting a nap, and sometimes it looks like washing soiled sheets. Sometimes it means reading a book, and sometimes it's bringing a meal to someone at church. When Jesus is our rest, the Sabbath can be a day of showing mercy and love, of being in the mess, making sacrifices, and being content with the inefficiencies of young children. It can be a day of high cost to ourselves in order to show Jesus to others. That's because our weekly rest isn't about tightly kept boundaries. It's about delighting and finding your joy in the Lord. I thought that was very helpful because the Sabbath is meant to give us rest. And so I have one last final sermon example. And I try to make these sermon examples. But if you are tired and you are given rest, this is seen as like a big air mattress. It's actually lighter than you think, but I'm pretty strong. But if you are given this gift of rest, you can take it and it's yours. And oh, good googly moogly, this feels good. Saran, just keep singing. I could worship here. No, like this. If God has given you this blessing of rest and relaxation. Why? Because He's taken care of it. He's done it all. But some of us take the blessing of the Sabbath or any blessings of God, and we do one of these. And we make ourselves a slave to it. We cause a burden. We don't trust that we could take a day off. We don't trust God that we could leave it up to Him. We have to do more, accomplish more, be more, prove more. This right here, this is not healthy because God gave this as a gift for us. When we turn it into a burden, it is the exact opposite of the rhythm of how He created everything. It is the exact opposite of how we don't remember. We forget that God is good. We forget that God saved us. We forget. It's like Here's the question. Do you think you could be more with 6 days with God than 7 days without? It's like tithing, right? Do you think you'll have more and be blessed more with 90% with God or 100% without? Did that hurt? Because this is supposed to be, it's supposed to be an interruption in our daily life. It's supposed to show us just how much we need God. It's supposed to show us just how much God has saved us, taken care of us, delivered us.
Wow, what an awesome sermon. Resting is such an important part of our relationship with Christ. You know, if you felt God speaking to you through this sermon, you can respond by giving in 3 different ways. You can give online at sunlightchurch.com/give. You can give on the Sunlight app. You could download that on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Or you can mail a check to the church with the address on the screen. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Let us know your thoughts, your prayer requests in the comments down below. We'd love to connect.